chosen ones, hear me now, because what I am about to reveal has been concealed from you for far too long. Long before you understood the weight of your own spirit. Long before you recognized the strange sense of not belonging that followed you through every season, the enemy had already identified what you carried. You were not attacked because you were weak. You were attacked because you were powerful, because a mark was placed on your soul, a light that darkness could neither imitate nor extinguish. They whispered into your mind before you even learned how to speak. They pushed obstacles before you learned how to walk. They worked to distort your identity before you ever had the chance to discover it. Every setback, every sudden betrayal, every moment of confusion that made you question your own worth was not random. It was a strategy. And you need to understand that. Look back at your life. The pattern speaks louder than chance. The people who should have nurtured you were the ones who inflicted the deepest scars. The friends who promised loyalty vanished in the moments you needed them most. Opportunities collapsed at the threshold just as you were about to step forward. You called it bad luck. You blamed yourself. You thought something was wrong with you. But nothing was wrong with you. The attacks came because something was right with you, something they feared would awaken. In your work, you were always given the heaviest burdens, not because you were at the bottom, but because others sensed the strength in you that they could not match. In relationships, you carried the emotional weight, the loyalty, the depth, and people took from you until there was nothing left, then blamed you for the emptiness they created. You mistook these patterns for personal flaws when, in truth, they were confirmations. When a soul carries weight, the world reacts. Weak spirits resent it. Broken spirits feed on it. Blind spirits misunderstand it. But heaven sees it, and hell fears it. Every rejection you suffered was not a door closing, but a redirection. Every betrayal was not a loss, but a divine separation. Every time you were left behind, it was not punishment, it was preparation. You were never meant to stay in the places that tried to shrink you. You were never meant to belong in rooms where your spirit made others uncomfortable. You were never meant to remain where your light revealed more than people were ready to face. And now, as your spirit begins to awaken, the truth becomes impossible to ignore. They knew who you were before you did. That is why the attacks were early. That is why the warfare was silent. That is why the opposition was relentless. But there is one thing the enemy always underestimates: the resilience of a soul God has marked. Darkness can delay you, but it cannot deny you. It can wound you, but it cannot withhold what was written for you. If this truth stirs something in your spirit, write 777 as your seal of faith. I will pray over every person who responds, and we will continue in the next part to uncover why the power within you is not learned, not borrowed, but divinely given. There is a strength within you that defies explanation, a depth that cannot be traced back to any classroom, mentor, or method. You did not stumble into this inner fire. It was planted in you long before you knew how to speak its language. And this is precisely why the world has struggled to understand you. The gifts you carry are not earned, they are inherited. They are not learned, they are designed. They are not borrowed, they are embedded. When something is divinely given, it cannot be replicated by those who merely observe it from the outside. They can mimic your tone, imitate your style, and copy your ideas, but they cannot reproduce the essence that flows through you. That essence is not technique, it is identity. Others have always tried to decipher you because you disrupt the patterns they rely on. You hear what they pretend not to hear. You see what they overlook. You rise from situations that would have broken them. This is why people gravitate toward you yet quietly resent you, praise you publicly yet question you privately, and admire your strength yet fear your independence. Your presence reveals what they lack. Your resilience exposes what they avoid. Your clarity challenges the illusions they hide behind. And when people cannot control what they cannot understand, they attempt to weaken it instead. C.S. Lewis understood this dynamic profoundly. In the Screwtape Letters, he describes how the enemy does not attack greatness by force, but by subtle distortions, shaping thoughts, twisting perceptions, and planting just enough doubt to make a person question what was originally placed in them. The scheme was never to steal the gift, because the gift cannot be stolen, but to convince the one who holds it to abandon it. What Lewis wrote as fiction reflects a truth you have lived without realizing. Your mind has been the battleground because your gift has always been the threat. Think of your own life. In work, you have often found yourself surrounded by people who study you more than they collaborate with you. They take your solutions but not your vision, your labor but not your leadership. You wonder why your competence invites competition rather than support. It is because your natural ability disrupts the comfort of those who depend on hierarchy rather than substance. In relationships, you have encountered individuals who are drawn to your compassion yet overwhelmed by its depth. They take shelter in your empathy but recoil when confronted by the truth your presence reveals in them. In your health, there have been seasons of inexplicable exhaustion, not physical, but spiritual, because you absorb more than others do, sense more than others sense, and carry more weight than others acknowledge. Every attack you have endured has been tailored not to destroy your strength, but to distort your perception of it. Doubt was used to dilute your confidence. Distraction was used to divide your focus. Emotional drains were used to drain your momentum. And every time you hesitated, they gained ground not because you were weak, but because you underestimated what had already been placed inside you. That is why the pressure has always been heavier on you than on others. That is why the battles came earlier, lasted longer, and cut deeper. But hear this truth clearly. The power within you is not a skill. It is not a hobby. It is not an accident. It is a calling. And what is given from above cannot be revoked by opinion, circumstance, or opposition. No matter who misunderstood you, no matter who tried to imitate you, no matter who attempted to diminish you, they could not rewrite what was written into your spirit. You were not made to follow a path, your path was made to follow you. And now, the time has come for you to stop doubting what heaven has already confirmed, to stop shrinking when others feel threatened, to stop waiting for permission to use what was never given to them in the first place. What flows through you is rare. What rises in you is real. What belongs to you is irrevocable. When you accept this, everything changes. When your spirit carries something that cannot be stolen, the strategy against you changes. The attacks no longer come as open confrontation. They come through subtle hands, familiar faces, and carefully crafted distractions. When they realize they cannot possess what was placed in you, they attempt to weaken it. When they cannot silence your voice, they try to confuse your mind. When they cannot imitate your gift, they try to distort your identity. They do not come to seize your power, they come to make you question it. And if they can make you doubt what is already yours, they no longer need to take it from you. Control often begins with confusion. They twist your perception until you doubt the very instincts that once guided you. They make you believe you are overreacting when your discernment is accurate. They make you feel guilty for setting boundaries that protect your peace. They try to convince you that the weight you carry is weakness, when in reality it is evidence of spiritual maturity. In the realm of relationships, this appears as people who drain you while pretending to need you, who demand your energy while withholding their own, who cling to you not out of love but out of dependency. They are drawn to what you provide but threatened by who you are. And when someone cannot rise to your level, they often choose to pull you down instead. In practical life, this dynamic shows up at work when colleagues praise you in public but undermine you in private. They take your ideas but minimize your role. They try to make you doubt your decisions so they can influence them. In moments where you should feel most confident, you suddenly feel pressured to shrink, not because your light is dimming, but because someone else is uncomfortable with its brightness. In your emotional life, this appears as individuals who praise your strength yet subtly criticize your convictions, who use flattery to gain access and guilt to maintain it, who appear as helpers but function as hindrances. Do not surrender your clarity. Do not negotiate your boundaries. Do not apologize for the wisdom you carry. And in the same breath, do not forget who you are. Do not forget what you have endured. Do not forget who sustained you through it. Understand this. The system around you was never designed to nurture those who carry disruptive power. It rewards conformity, not calling. It elevates obedience, not authenticity. It praises predictability, not purpose. You are not meant to fit into structures that fear what you represent. You are not built to function under ceilings meant to contain the ordinary. The pressure you feel is not rejection. It is recognition. They treat you like a threat because your existence challenges the narrative they depend on. But the moment you stop giving them control, the moment you stop shrinking yourself to ease their discomfort, the moment you reclaim your focus, their influence loses its power. They cannot take what is yours. They can only distract you long enough to make you lay it down. Stand firm. What was placed within you cannot be undone. There is a battle around you that cannot be seen with the naked eye, yet the wounds it leaves are unmistakable. You have felt it in the heaviness that comes without explanation, in the strange exhaustion that sleep cannot fix, in the sudden conflicts that appear right when you are closest to a breakthrough. These things are not coincidences. They are consequences of a war fought in realms beyond sight. Life has tried to convince you that these patterns are simply stress, bad timing, or misfortune, but deep within, you know better. When the mind suffers without reason, when the heart breaks without warning, when opportunities collapse without logic, you are not dealing with randomness, you are confronting warfare. Scripture tells us, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood," and that truth has echoed through every season of your life, even when you could not name it. There were moments when discouragement hit you out of nowhere, as if your spirit was being pushed underwater, moments when people who once supported you suddenly turned cold for no reason at all, moments when everything you tried to build fell apart right as it was finally taking shape. These are not indicators of your failure, but evidence of your importance. The more significant your calling, the more sophisticated the resistance. And when the enemy cannot attack you openly, he attacks you subtly, through doubt, through confusion, through fatigue, through the distraction of people who drain you, through the weight of responsibilities that were never meant to be yours, through emotional storms that make you question your own strength. Think of the times you felt overwhelmed even though nothing was physically wrong, the nights when your mind refused to rest, though your body was exhausted, the days when the atmosphere around you felt heavy without explanation. That heaviness was not imagined. That pressure was not accidental. You were not losing control. Something was trying to make you believe you were. And when your mind becomes the battlefield, every thought becomes a weapon. Every hesitation becomes an opening. Every fear becomes a foothold. This is why the attacks have targeted your focus, your clarity, your confidence. Not because you are vulnerable, but because your power is rooted in your ability to see, to discern, to choose with conviction. When you were close to change, something tried to distract you. When you were close to healing, something tried to reopen old wounds. When you were close to rising, something tried to weigh you down. But do not be deceived by the invisibility of the battle. What is unseen is not unreal. What is silent is not inactive. What is hidden is not harmless. If anything, the invisible battle is the most dangerous, because you cannot fight what you refuse to acknowledge. Yet the very fact that the pressure intensified is proof of one thing: You are advancing, and you are closer to a breakthrough than you have ever been. Stand firm. The war may be invisible, but your victory is not. There has been a quiet ache in your life that you rarely speak about, the feeling of standing in rooms while sensing you are not truly in them, the experience of being surrounded by people yet carrying a loneliness that words could never satisfy. This feeling did not appear because you are broken or unworthy. It appeared because you were set apart. Separation is not punishment. Separation is preparation. And the solitude that has followed you through the years is not a sign that something is wrong with you. It is a sign that something significant is being cultivated within you. You have tried to blend in, but blending in never lasted. You tried to stay where you outgrew, but the discomfort exposed the truth. You tried to carry people who were never meant to walk with you into the next chapter, but the weight eventually forced you to release them. Again and again, life removed what you were never meant to hold, not because you didn't love deeply, but because your path required clarity, and clarity could not form in crowded spaces. The higher your calling, the smaller your circle becomes. Not everyone can walk at your altitude. Not everyone can breathe where you are going. In relationships, this appeared as people drifting away without explanation, connections fading despite your effort, and bonds breaking even when you gave everything you had. You blamed yourself, questioned yourself, and wondered if you were the problem. But solitude was never about rejection. It was a safeguard. It was the evidence that certain people would have hindered your becoming had they remained. In work, it appeared as being the one who thinks differently, who feels out of place in environments built on comfort rather than growth. In truth, you were never designed to settle into the familiar. You were designed to elevate. When you tried to stay small, something pushed you forward. When you tried to stay where you were, something pulled you higher. When you tried to hold on to everyone, something narrowed your path. So do not despise your solitude. It is not emptiness, it is alignment. It is the place where clarity forms, where strength is forged, and where destiny becomes undeniable. When direct opposition fails, the attack takes a different form. It becomes subtle, quiet, almost invisible. Instead of trying to break you, they try to occupy you. Instead of challenging your strength, they work to divide it. Instead of silencing your voice, they surround it with noise until you cannot hear yourself anymore. This is why so many of your delays have not come from weakness, but from distraction. It is easier to keep a powerful person busy than to keep them bound. Illusions appear in the form of endless scrolling, empty conversations, sudden drama, emotional turbulence, and the constant pull of trivial tasks that steal your focus 1 minute at a time. These things seem harmless, but they are designed to fragment your attention because a scattered mind cannot carry a sharp purpose. In daily life, you have seen this pattern clearly. The moment you decide to change, something interrupts. The moment you finally gain clarity, something floods your thoughts. The moment you step toward growth, something drains your energy. You call it a coincidence, but it is coordination. A distracted spirit cannot discern. A tired mind cannot hear direction. A busy heart cannot hold conviction. And this is precisely the point. When they cannot stop your purpose, they distract your focus. When they cannot weaken your strength, they scatter your energy. When they cannot silence your voice, they flood your mind. You were not meant to live divided. You were meant to live directed. Your power grows where your attention goes, and if they can capture your focus, they do not need to capture anything else. Guard your mind. Guard your intention. Guard the path ahead, because clarity is the first step to destiny. Doubt has followed you like a shadow, not because you lack strength, but because your strength intimidates every force that does not want to see you rise. When the enemy cannot chain your hands, he targets your mind. When he cannot stop your steps, he tries to weaken your confidence. When he cannot silence your voice, he works to silence your belief in yourself. This is why the attacks were subtle, psychological, and perfectly timed. Doubt does not strike when you are low. It strikes when you are rising. It appears not when you are lost, but when you are finally close to clarity. It whispers at the exact moment you begin to trust your own discernment. That whisper is not your voice. You were taught to mistake it for your own. Throughout your life, you have been surrounded by people who encouraged you to be realistic, calm down, or not expect too much. They disguised fear as wisdom and insecurity as advice. They planted small seeds, just enough to make you hesitate, just enough to make you second-guess what was already placed inside you. And hesitation becomes surrender when repeated long enough. You have lost opportunities not because you were incapable, but because doubt delayed your decision. You have silenced your intuition not because it was wrong, but because someone else convinced you to distrust it. You have walked away from breakthroughs because doubt convinced you they were too big for you. But doubt is not evidence of your weakness, it is evidence of your significance. Important battles always begin in the mind, because your belief determines your direction. Once you reclaim your confidence, every force that challenged you loses its influence. Your mind was the battlefield, but your clarity will be the victory. Everything you have survived was not random, accidental, or meaningless. The fire that almost consumed you was the same fire that shaped you. The pressures that felt unbearable were the very pressures that forged your strength. Every heartbreak, every loss, every season of uncertainty was part of a refining process that you did not choose but were chosen for. You wondered why your journey felt heavier than others, why your storms were stronger, why your trials seemed endless. But gold is not refined in calm waters, and warriors are not shaped in comfort. You were being strengthened for a purpose far greater than the pain you endured. There were nights when you whispered, "I can't take this anymore." Yet somehow you woke up with enough strength to face another day. There were seasons when everything collapsed at once, yet you continued to persevere. You thought you were breaking, but you were being built. You thought you were losing, but you were being aligned. You thought you were being punished, but you were being prepared. That is the truth, hiding beneath the weight of your history. When life pushed you to the edge, you discovered resilience you didn't know you had. When people abandoned you, you learned to stand on your own foundation. When everything fell apart, something deeper within you held firm. Think of the times when you should have given up but didn't. The moments when you thought you were done yet somehow rose again. The situations that should have destroyed you but instead defined you. Those were not coincidences. They were confirmations. You were not being broken down. You were being prepared for elevation. The untested cannot be trusted with great responsibility. The unshaken cannot lead those who are trembling. The unrefined cannot carry what requires purity, endurance, and clarity. Your trials were not obstacles, they were training. And now, because you endured what others could not, and survived what others never faced, you carry a strength that cannot be shaken. This is why you were tested, not to destroy you. There comes a moment in every life when hesitation can no longer be justified, when waiting becomes the very thing that holds you back, and when the only direction left is forward. You have spent years questioning yourself, negotiating with fear, delaying what your spirit already confirmed. But there is no more time to waste. The energy around you is shifting, the pressure is increasing, and the doorway you have been circling is open right now. You are not waiting for a sign, you are the sign. Nothing else needs to appear, nothing else needs to align, nothing else needs to be proven. Your clarity has arrived. Your readiness is already visible. Your moment is now. Every time you postponed your growth, fear won. Every time you waited for permission, you gave away power. Every time you said one day, you denied the day assigned to you. But that cycle ends here. Do not wait for perfect conditions, they do not exist. Do not wait for others to understand, they never fully will. Do not wait to feel fearless, courage is movement despite fear. Think of the dreams you buried because you felt unprepared, the opportunities you avoided because you doubted yourself, the visions you silenced because you feared judgment. Those were not weaknesses. They were moments your spirit longed for activation. And this is that activation. The world around you grows darker, not to intimidate you, but to reveal that your light is needed more urgently than ever. Nothing changes until you move. Nothing shifts until you decide. Nothing transforms until you rise. The moment you step into alignment, everything you were chasing will begin to move toward you. Your life is not waiting for chance, it is waiting for your command. The time is now. Your energy has always been the most valuable and most targeted part of you. Not your talent, not your achievements, not your resources, your energy. The atmosphere you carry, the clarity you radiate, the strength you emit without speaking a word. People feel it before they understand it. Some are uplifted by it, but many are threatened by it. And those who cannot create energy of their own will always try to feed on yours. This is why you have often walked away from conversations feeling drained without knowing why. This is why certain people became heavier the closer they got. This is why you have given more than you received, carried more than others carried, and recovered more slowly than you expected. They were not drawn to you out of love, they were drawn to you out of need. Energy leeches appear in many forms. They show up as friends who only call when they want something, partners who take without giving, co-workers who rely on your strength but never offer their own. They drain your emotional bandwidth, your mental clarity, your spiritual focus. And if you do not learn to identify them, you begin to mistake exhaustion for personality, burnout for normalcy, emptiness for sacrifice. You must guard it relentlessly. Your boundaries are not selfish, they are sacred. The moment you stop giving freely to those who only take, your strength multiplies. The moment you protect what flows within you, clarity returns. The moment you recognize your energy as a weapon, you stop handing it to those who only use it against you. Your destiny requires power, and your power flows from the energy you keep, not the energy you lose. When you rise, the atmosphere around you will shift. The moment you step into your strength, the moment you reclaim your clarity, the moment you stop bowing to expectations that were never yours, the world will notice. Some will be inspired, but many will be unsettled. People who once ignored you will suddenly watch you. People who once doubted you will attempt to re-enter your life. People who once benefited from your weakness will feel threatened by your growth. Elevation draws attention, especially from those who only felt comfortable when you were small. The return of old voices is not a sign of reconciliation. It is a signal of recognition. They see that you are no longer who you used to be. They see that what they once controlled can no longer be influenced. They see that you have stepped into a version of yourself they never believed you would reach. And in their discomfort, they will use guilt, nostalgia, or flattery to pull you backward. This is why you must stay ready. When old patterns resurface, recognize them. When familiar temptations whisper, resist them. When past distractions knock, do not open the door. This is the season where discernment matters more than desire. Not every hand extended to you is there to help you. Not every smile is sincere. Not every return is redemption. But elevation requires separation, and the same people who applauded your weakness will question your strength. Do not be moved. Walk forward with intention, with wisdom, with vigilance, because nothing threatens the insecure more than someone who finally knows their power. You have reached the moment where truth can no longer be softened or delayed. Every battle behind you has been shaping you for the clarity standing before you now. Nothing that hurt you was wasted. Nothing that stretched you was unnecessary. Nothing that broke you was accidental. Your journey has been intentional from the beginning, and everything you survived has carried you to the threshold of your destiny. You are not standing here by chance. You are standing here because you endured what was meant to stop you. There comes a point where hesitation becomes a chain, where waiting becomes a prison, and where destiny demands your participation. That point is now. You can no longer pretend you are unaware of your calling. You can no longer shrink yourself to make others comfortable. You can no longer negotiate with the doubts that were never yours to carry. You know too much. You have seen too much. You have grown too much to return to who you once were. You have wept enough to recognize your strength. You have wandered enough to value direction. You have survived enough to trust your resilience. Your adversaries counted on your exhaustion. They assumed you would collapse before you awakened. They believed the weight would bury you, not build you. But they were wrong. The fact that you are still here listening, seeking, receiving, means your purpose is stronger than every attack you endured. You were being refined, not rejected, strengthened, not diminished, positioned, not punished. And now, as the path ahead opens, your spirit knows it. It is time. To anchor this shift, the 7-day ritual will align your mind, your energy, and your direction. Day 1. Sit in silence for 10 minutes. No requests, no questions, just openness. Day 2. Write what you must release. Habits, fears, relationships that drain you. Day 3. Write what is being awakened in you. Desires, visions, strengths. Day 4. Remove one distraction for 7 days, social media, a habit, a noise. Day 5. Set one firm boundary with someone who drains your peace. Day 6. Take one step toward your future. A plan, a call, a decision. Day 7. Declare out loud, I rise, I align, I walk in what belongs to me. Through these 7 days, resistance may appear because transformation disrupts anything that depended on your old identity. Stand firm, do not retreat, do not apologize. You are stepping into the version of yourself that the darkness hoped you'd never discover. Father, I lift the one hearing this message. I ask that your presence settle over them with clarity, strength, and unshakable peace. Every burden that has weighed on their heart, lift it. Every lie that has clouded their identity, breaks it. Every chain that has kept them small, destroy it. Surround them with your protection. Align them with your purpose, and guide their steps into the fullness of who you created them to be. Let courage replace fear. Let wisdom replace confusion. Let power replace hesitation. Cover their home, their mind, their body, and their path. Seal this awakening in their spirit so deeply that no voice, no fear, and no darkness can undo it. From this day forward, let them walk in clarity, rise in strength, and move in divine alignment. Amen.